This is Seventh Generation Warfare. I am your current host, John Nelson. What is Seventh Generation Warfare? From the Iroquois people comes a proverb known as the Seventh Generation Principle. Quote, in every deliberation, we must consider the impact on the seventh generation. And from William S. Lind, military strategist, comes a concept, the generations of warfare. Together, from a principle about sustainability and a concept of war, emerges the seventh generation warfare principle. So, what is war? Let's start there. Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication 1, Warfighting, says, quote, the essence of war is a violent struggle between two hostile, independent, and irreconcilable wills, each trying to impose itself on the other. End quote. But as we will discuss soon, with the advent of fifth generation warfare, war need not be violent, though it retains its essence of being a clash of wills. As I will put forth to you, the sixth and ultimately seventh generation warfares, the will that are clashing need not be human to human even. So for here on, for the purposes of this introduction into seventh generation warfare, I would like us to consider war as, quote, the struggle between your will and any other force seeking to limit its efficacy. Let's look at the existing 5 generations of warfare. First generation warfare is characterized by manpower, formations, and attrition. It is the oldest form of warfare, and due to restrictions of weaponry, such as swords and spears, the killing was done up close. It was also done on a field of battle. You can think of such Hollywood renditions of it, such as Braveheart or even the movie 300, but Hollywood is not a good model for what war is. Second generation warfare is more modern and took hold after the invention of rifles, gunpowder, and indirect fire. Still focusing on causing mass casualties through attrition on a field of battle and utilizing units in formation. You can think of the American Revolution or the American Civil War, even up into parts of World War I. Third generation warfare, for which I am trained, commonly referred to as maneuver warfare, utilizes speed of transportation and the combination of multiple weaponry types to bypass enemy strengths and instead focus on their critical vulnerabilities. This was first perfected by the Germans in World War II and is still the main tactic for the majority of modern military forces. The Germans, it was known as Blitzkrieg or Lightning War, and they would just bypass whole armies and take the key terrain, and that's how they would win the battle. Fourth generation warfare is unique in that it is decentralized. The boundaries between combatants and hostiles is not clear. You can also refer to it as a guerrilla warfare. And it is not uncommon for one of the forces to be a non-state actor. This generation of warfare predates others, but remains effective when there's asymmetry between the combating forces. You can think of the insurgencies in Iraq, or even fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan, where there's ambushes, use of IEDs, things like that. Because if they were to engage the U.S. military head-on in a field of battle, they would be destroyed. So instead they take to these other tactics, such as ambushes. Fifth generation warfare would not be recognized by most as warfare at all. This is primarily why it's so effective, is because most people don't even know it's being waged against them. This generation warfare is mostly nonviolent and instead targets hearts, minds, and perceptions through social engineering. It is not necessary to kill someone if you can get them to submit to you willingly. So, from state actor to state actor, this could be manipulating the population through through media, both news, but also Hollywood renditions of things. What you get the population to care about. That's all on the big scale. You could think, for instance, China and could manipulate media in the U.S. to make the population weak and submissive, and to degrade the fighting capacity of the military force. But it need not be nation versus nation. I personally think that corporations are also engaged in fifth generation warfare. Marketing campaigns, I think, are a form of fifth generation warfare designed to get your will to participate in something that the company wants you to participate in when you might not, in fact, want it. So the first 5 generations of warfare is all that war theorists have come up with so far. But here I'm going to put forth to you 6th and 7th generation warfare. So what is 6th generation warfare? Since 5th generation warfare is about social engineering and manipulating the enemy's mind without them knowing, 6th generation warfare must be the war within ourselves. Up above, we defined war as, quote, the struggle between your will and any other force seeking to limit its efficacy, end quote. 5th generation warfare is institution versus institution seeking to warp hearts and minds of its people or of other people. And 6th generation warfare is the response of us who do not seek to be pawns in their game of chess. Systems, institutions, governments, they want to control your actions. If your will is contrary to theirs, then you are, by definition, at war with them. But do you want to engage in 5th generation warfare with them? No. Let's engage in 6th generation warfare. 6th generation warfare is, quote, nonviolent warfare for the control over one's own will, end quote. The enemies are various versions of yourself, or the influence of others that others have over you. They may have infiltrated your psyche. You might hear other people's thoughts instead of your own. If you're self-critical, or even if you're the opposite, if you're prideful, those could be other people's thoughts, not your own. Your dependency on others, any institution, be you on public water, be you have a job, your ability to cope or adapt with changing times or sudden misfortune. If the world gets locked down, are you going to go along with whatever the people tell you to go along with? If your income comes to a screeching halt, are you going to cooperate with whoever you have to cooperate with? These are all the battles that are waged in 6th generation warfare. So, waging 6th generation warfare is a continuous struggle of identifying your will by distinguishing it from the will of others, and then changing your perspectives, values, and actions in order to negate others' will and secure what you want. I'm going to say that again. Waging 6th generation warfare is a continuous struggle of identifying your own will by distinguishing it from the will of others, and then changing your perspectives, values, and actions in order to negate others' will and secure what you want. If sixth generation warfare is waged properly, you will not need to ever wage war with others. You can avoid those who seek to subvert your will, and you will not have a need or interest in subverting others' will violently or through mental manipulation. I stumbled through that. If sixth generation warfare is waged properly, you will not need to ever wage war with others. You can avoid those who seek to subvert your will, and you will not have a need or interest in subverting others' will violently or through mental manipulation. So this is about rising your character to the point where others can't bring you harm, and you have no interest in bringing others harm. This is a two-front war. First, spiritually, in knowing what evil is and what is not evil. Knowing when it is taking hold within you and knowing when to let it go. Or knowing how to let it go, I should say. Knowing how to recognize evil in others and how to avoid it before it harnesses violent capacity. The evil in others may be a single person or a collective. So that's the spiritual aspect of it. Secondly, sixth generation warfare, the material aspect of it. Materially, in that you can acquire the resources that you require to live a fulfilling life and not confusing material wants with material needs. Also, in being able to either help others acquire resources that they require, or knowing when to avoid them if they are on a violent path for resource acquisition. It is said that a lot of war is fought over resources. And so people who are hungry for resources will get violent. And so that last point is to know when to avoid people who are getting violent urges on their path to material or resource acquisition. Sixth generation warfare is a noble accomplishment. It's a campaign against all the negative forces within yourself. Keep in mind that your will and all your sixth generation warfare victories, unfortunately, will die with you. Probably a few short decades from now. So while it is a noble fight, and it's kind of one of the main callings in life, I think, is to perfect our character and to bring our neighbors peace, harmony, and joy. Know that the war for your own will, the war for your own character, is a short-lived one. Before we describe seventh generation warfare, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the seventh generation principle from the Iroquois Indians. The seventh generation principle is believed to have its roots in the oral constitution of the Iroquois Confederacy, though it is not directly mentioned, apparently. Though they lack political influence over the United States, this is all from the internet. I don't personally know any Iroquois. I've never been in any longhouses and had any long chats with any Iroquois. Though they lack political influence over the United States, the Iroquois Confederacy has been in existence from around 1570 to today, and that makes it the longest lasting participatory democracy on Earth. So they got something going for them. While at first glance, the seventh generation principle seems to suggest living in a way that is sustainable for your great, 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 great grandchildren, this is misleading. The seventh generation principle, from what I understand, marks the extent of all the family you are likely to interact with in your entire life. If you are lucky when you are young, you will experience your great grandparents. And if you are wise and live a healthy lifestyle, you may get to meet your great grandchildren. That's 3 generations before you, 3 generations after you. You in the middle makes 7 generations. So, what is 7th generation warfare? I'd like to read a quote real quick from A. Vandergrift. This is also out of MCDP 1, Warfighting. Quote, positions are seldom lost because they have been destroyed, but almost invariably because the leader has decided his own mind that the position cannot be held. End quote. As I said, 6th generation warfare, it's going to die with you, but it doesn't have to. 7th generation warfare is the fight we should be taking. So, in 7th generation, we are now reaching our fullest potential and highest calling. 6th generation warfare would have us find our own will and find harmony in our own lives. But 7th generation warfare leverages our unique and privileged influence as parents and grandparents to help bring harmony to our descendants. 7th generation warfare is, quote, nonviolent warfare, ensuring that our descendants control their own will. End quote. Waging 7th generation warfare is done deliberately, considering the impact of our actions, values, beliefs, and customs on our family. This enables us to help set the battlefield conditions from which our family will be conducting their own 6th generation war. It also ensures that our actions in regards to 7th generation warfare are sustainable and repeatable for future iterations of 7th generation war fighters. It is not enough to provide for our children and grandchildren a good life. Whatever we do, we must be repeatable so that they can provide for their children ad infinitum. With the ability of future generations to change the tactics, techniques, and procedures to meet the needs of the times they are living in. The enemy for 7th generation warfare changes but may include ourselves, friends and family, lack of knowledge or instruction, human nature, sin and vice, institutions or governments, or anything else that prevents us from instilling in our family the tools they need to successfully secure their will. While mastery of 6th generation warfare is helpful, it is not required for a successful 7th generation war campaign. It could be said that providing more opportunity for our children than was provided for you is success. While definitely honorable, if your children do not possess and achieve the goal of providing more for their children than yours was, then your effort has failed. Like 6th generation warfare, the war is 2 fronts, both spiritual and material. It is not enough to provide resources for your children, and you can wage. It is not enough to provide resources for your children. And you can wage a very successful 7th generation warfare even if you are materially poor. Also, multi-generational thinking begins to change how we think about resources. From a consume according to my will to consume or to conserve for future generations. The critical vulnerabilities in seventh generation war is whether or not your descendants will pick up the metaphorical flag and continue the charge into the battle long after you have passed. So, how do we do it? That's what this channel is about. I hope you'll stay tuned for future weeks. And I hope that you will pick up the flag of 7th generation warfare and march with me. Thank you for listening. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share. If you know any persons able or willing to collaborate on this effort, please reach out, and I will see you on the next video. This is 7th Generation Warfare, and I am your current host, John Nelson.